Hello and welcome to spring. It's been a really long time coming, but here it is at last. So I'm going to take you through a few of the things that I've been doing over the last few months. The taking down of the fence at the bottom of the garden, the tidying up of this area, the repainting of this wall here, and the preparations for what's going to be a fantastic year. Now, I'm also going to be doing some planting today. I've got some blueberry shrubs which are sitting in some water at the moment, and I'll show you the best way to guarantee that they're going to live, because they're a difficult plant to grow, but then also an easy plant to grow. And I'll explain why they're difficult and easy as we go through the show. Also going to be planting out some peas and some bits and pieces ready for our crop this year. So there's a lot that I want to take you through, and we'll do a lot of catching up over these last couple of months as well. So without any further ado, welcome to spring 2023 in a year gardening. Well, today I'm just going to be stripping away a little bit more of the fence. I've got a replacement for this arch because this is all rusted, but I've got to get this clematis untangled from here. Don't want to really damage that. So, there we go, just there, and we can get that over this side, lovely, and cut this back on here. Right, so I'm fairly clear plant wise on there now, so I've just got to get this dismantled. It was only when I was measuring up and looking at how I'm going to do this new pond that I realised the bad condition that this arch is actually in. It's very poor. It's gone all rusty, and that's not going to come out like that. So let's just see if we can wipe that off. There's only a little bracket on here lightly. It doesn't seem to want to come off. Ah, there we go. Let's got that. Now that'll release that bit of wood there. Lovely. And then we can start to just lift off maybe one or two of these pieces of wood on here. Then I can cut through the wood behind. This feather edge is only nailed on there. It should come off reasonably well, I think. Yeah, it's not in great condition, but we're not going to be reusing that at all. There. Might be able to get that out in one bit, you never know. That was a little bit like hard work, but got this out. I'm now going to get my metal cutter, because the way the honeysuckle has grown around this arch, I'm going to cut it up in situ. So I'm going to go and get my extension lead, run that down, get my disc cutter, and start cutting this up here so that we can actually dismantle the honeysuckle without causing it any damage. So I'm going to crack on with that now. Right, we're going to start on some of this cutting. This bit's all about safety, so protective eyewear and protection for the hands. Very, very important. And now I'm just going to start. See how we're doing here, what I've actually got to cut. So I need to take a section through here. There's that bit. That will no doubt come round there. So that's pretty good. That may actually come clear of there. We can get it to slide through. Okay, it's got a little bit of wire in there. So we'll remove that. Some of this support wire that I had for the plants, very, very fine, very difficult to see. And hopefully I can now work this out. There, it's going to come, look at that, lovely. And I'm going to continue just taking this out one section at a time to leave the plant in there, and all should be good. Well, the archway is now down, the fence is cleared, I've moved the pot store, cleared the ground a little bit there, put in a temporary structure here for this clematis to cling onto so it's not laying on the floor and I don't damage it. Next thing to do is I've got to finish clearing up this area, install the new arch and attach the beautiful, beautiful honeysuckle to the new arch. So that's this little bit of that done. Let me show you what I was doing with the wall on the patio. Well, it's time to start cleaning up, and I've just painted this wall about an hour ago now with some path and patio cleaner to remove some of this green off of the wall before we think about painting it. I'm also going to start jet washing the patio, so let's have a look and see whether this comes off with the jet washer. couple of things that has taught me. Firstly, damp proof courses here. Everything below that I'm going to have to seal properly. I'll probably seal it up to a couple of courses above, but the brickwork is very, very damp, and that's why it's going over. And I'm going to have to actually take this down with a brush and give it a nice clean. In fact, if I put the seal over the whole of the wall, then when I paint it, it's going to be much improved. The other thing I've learned is don't buy cheap paint, because that's one of the reasons why this hasn't worked. I bought this masonry paint from the Aldi supermarket, and I should have gone to a builder's merchants. We all learn, don't we? So this job's going to get done in the next month. It's going to look a lot better, and we'll revisit that when we're sitting out here with a nice glass of wine in the summer. Forgive my Latin, but it's time to give a little bit of planting time. Vicorium corymbosum, I think it is, but very often known as blueberry. Now I'm going to plant a couple of little plants here. These have been soaking in this water for about 20 hours now. They're bare root plants, and there's not a lot on there, but we're going to hope they're going to live. Now, I did explain they're easy to grow, but they're hard to grow. You've got to grow them in the right soil. Now, what I've got here is a mixture of some leaf mulch from the rhododendrons and the Christmas ferns, and some ericaceous compost as well. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to basically fill the bottom of this pot with a little bit of soil. Make sure this is broken up nicely. Oh, isn't it lovely to feel the soil in your hands? Yes, lovely, lovely, lovely. We're going to pop this in here. Make a little spot in the middle for the plants to go. And that is going to sit inside here. Then I'm going to fill around the plant. Get this nicely firmed in, and then we're going to fill that completely with this ericaceous soil. It's very important that you use the right soil for the right plant, and blueberries are an acid loving plant. So if you don't grow your own leaf mulch, then just use some ericaceous compost. That is absolutely fine to do. And we're going to just firm that down, give the roots a good chance to grow there. Now, one of the problems that I have found with some people is that they don't fill the pot. Your pot is designed to actually come to the top. So fill it to the top, and then once you've actually got that in there, grab yourself some water and then water the plant in. It's not an issue. We'll water that down, let that live, and then we're going to grab second pot, do exactly the same thing with the second plant. They're going to stand at the top of the steps there, and it is so simple. Now, when you're making your own leaf mulch, let me tell you this. I take the leaves of the rhododendron and bits of Christmas tree fern and bits and pieces, and I run them through my shredder. When you run them through the shredder, you get a nice fine mulch out. Put it in a plastic bag, leave it over winter. Then I mix it in with this compost. It's not a problem. And all I've got to do now is put all of this inside here, and it's a beautiful mix of compost. It really is. It feels lovely in the hand, and we fill this in. Got to get the plant standing as upright as possible, and I fill it in. It's beautiful, and at the end of the day we have got a couple of beautiful plants just to grow for next year. And I can't guarantee 100% that they're going to grow perfectly, but I'm pretty certain they will. There's one last thing I will tell you about planting those blueberries. Don't use tap water. It's not good for them, too much chalk in it. Use rainwater, collect it from your water butts, whatever. Put a bucket outside, use rainwater. Without rainwater, they will not survive as well. So that's the blueberries planted. Let's move on to the next bit. Well, it's time now, this is mid-February, to start getting some of my seeds in. And the first ones that I'm going to be planting to start off inside are my courgettes, and hopefully we'll get a nice crop of these. So I'm growing more and more in less and less space at this moment in time, but I do like to get a good crop of my veggies growing. So I'm just going to take these, plant them into my trough, which I'm going to then keep in the polytunnel. Let's show you the way I do them. So I pop the seeds into my hand. Now they're a nice large seed, so they're quite easy to plant out. And I lay these on their side in the compost, and I'm going to be planting quite a few in here and then thinning them out. Some will grow into the ground and some will stay in this trough, and that will then come up onto the patio just outside the kitchen. So this is going to take 12 seeds here, and as you can see they're just laid on their sides. And I do the same thing with my cucumbers when I'm growing those as well. And then I'm just going to take some seed compost and just lightly cover those. So get about a centimetre of covering. It's a nice fine compost, and this also has a feed built into it to encourage germination, which is rather useful. And with this particular plant I do keep it down well below the top, which gives me a chance then of trailing them, because when they grow up I can trail them over the side just to make quite a nice decorative feature of that. So I'll get these labelled up, put these into the polytunnel, keep them watered until they germinate. Oh, this is going to be such fun. Loving getting the plants growing again. Now, whilst we're in the greenhouse, let me show you a couple of the bits and pieces we've already got growing. Well, these are a plant that came into my shop last year, and I really liked them, and I thought, well, I'll grow them myself this year. This is Senetii, and I've got 3 different varieties, so I'll get some different colours of leaves. As you can see, this has a green stalk on here, but there's one that's come through here, and this has a slightly purple stalk on there, which is going to be a nice little contrast, and they're going to go into the summer borders, and they'll give us some good height as well. And then below here we've got the gladioli that I planted in the last show. My dahlias here getting some air. They're going to be ready to plant out in the next week or so. Down the bottom there I've got my geraniums, and they're cut down now, ready to start growing again for this year. and I've got lots more in the way of seeds. These are my little tins where I keep my seeds, and I've got around about 50 packs of seeds in there, so we'll be back up to our 2,000 to 3,000 plants again in a very, very short space of time. Well, I've prepared my new arch ready to go down the garden, so it might appear a little bit tall at the moment, but the bottom 30 centimetres needs to go into the ground to give it its support. So that's all prepared now. What I've got to do now is go down the garden and prepare the ground, move the honeysuckle back, just tie it back a little bit so that I can get the arch in place, and then we can find out our positioning then for the pond. So, oh, I'm so looking forward to getting on with this bit of the job. So one of the first things that I've got to do is just to keep this back whilst I bring the arch in, put it in place and find out where I've got to dig. So I'm just going to take some ordinary string here, bring it round the main branch here. Because of all the new growth on here, I've got to be so careful not to damage anything, because I want these lovely flowers to come. Then I'm just going to bring this back over the side and tie it off onto the fence. There's a little loop up onto there. And I'll leave that ball in there. All good. Well, that's in place. Looking rather splendid. Now just got to bring the honeysuckle back, reattach it to this arch, then start to bring this absolutely beautiful clematis attached to this side, and then once the jasmine starts regrowing, we'll bring that up this side. We'll have a beautiful surround of colour and smells and senses, which will lead us into our new pond area, which I'm glad to say my son's going to go and help me dig. So that's the new arch in place. Well, just looking out of the greenhouse, now I've attached that honeysuckle, and I'm quite pleased with the results. I think it's going to look splendid this year. Well, it's lovely to have the sun out of an afternoon. I'm just thinking about how it's going to be so wonderful to be able to sit in our bench with the new pond, the raised beds out of the way, the peace garden beside us, the roses in flower, and taking in the evening sun, because that is where the evening sun comes in the garden, and that's going to be something wonderful to enjoy later this year. But I think you'll agree with me that we've covered a fair bit over the last few months. I haven't done quite as much as I had wanted to, but I've done a fair bit. And the extension of the flower garden and the enjoyment garden down into this area is going to make a big difference to the garden. We've had a very varied winter, but it's not been that cold. But that's fortunate with the cost of gas and electricity these days, that we've been able to stay on the right side of things. However, we've got a few bits done, and the main thing was taking down that fence. Now, that fence was one of the very, very first things that I actually put into the garden when we came here, just to divide it off so we've got a working garden and a flower garden. And you probably see there's a little picture of what it used to look like just up over my shoulder there. And yes, it's time to change. I've still got a few bits to lift. I've got the car tyres to move out of the way with the planter where I grow my mint, and I'll move that to somewhere new. The raised beds are now ready to come out. The arch is in place. and I'm really looking forward to what will be a nice summer this year. So that's it for our spring welcome back, for March, for all of those signs of lovely growth that are coming through. The hellebores are in full flower, the daffodils are out, the tulips are coming through. God is sending us new life, and it is absolutely fantastic. So I just can't wait to share all the wonderful things that are going to be happening over this next year with you, and I hope you stay on the journey with me. Your company, as always, is greatly appreciated. So I'm going to leave you. I'm going to say I will see you in about 4 weeks' time in April. In between this show coming out and next April, I'm going to have a little birthday. I think I'm going to be about 25 or whatever I feel like being, but it's going to be fun, and I've got such a lot planned to show you in the April show as well, because it's growing time, and growing time is such a fantastic time of year. But until then, I will ask you please to stay safe, be well, be kind to each other, and happy gardening. And today I'll leave you with a rather splendid little Cabernet Sauvignon, Australian, I believe, from a company called 19 Crimes. And it is a rather spiffing little spot of stuff. So happy days and cheers. No, another drop of that.